and it was so annoying. Like, I was about to, like, punch this guy. It was like, no, I don't know. I don't know what bus I go on, obviously, or else I wouldn't be asking you which bus goes on the street. Welcome to my channel. This is about, wait, what? This video is going to be about embarrassing new kid stories. So, enjoy. If you're a new kid, I feel for you. If you've never moved before, then good for you. Some people have, and yeah. So, the first one is how I missed the bus twice. Once on my first day. I think I missed it on the same day. I missed it on a Friday, and then next week I think I also missed it on a Friday. Okay, so the first time was my first day of school, which is amazing that I managed to miss the bus on the first day of school. And I didn't, okay, so the girl that was showing me around was like, oh, do you want me to tell you where your bus is? And then I was like, no, I'll be okay. And I wasn't okay, obviously, because I couldn't freaking find it. So I was like, I went outside and I started looking for the buses, and I looked in the area of the bus, and I had like, there's like a map where all the buses are, and I had the map and the number, and I was looking for where the buses were, and I couldn't find the bus, and it was so embarrassing because like all the the school like officials and all that, like the principal and all, were like at the front of the school, and I kept glancing at them, and they kept glancing at me, and they could probably tell that I was like so confused, but they didn't do anything. But it was so embarrassing. And then all the like while the buses were leaving, everyone was like watching me, and it was so embarrassing. And then I went back inside, and I went to my counselor, and I'm like, I just missed the bus. And she's like, oh no, like, and my dad didn't have a car at the time. Well, my dad didn't have a car at the time. So, he couldn't drive me, and my aunt and uncle were at work. So I was screwed, and I was stuck at school. And so I called my dad, and I'm like, Dad, can you pick me up? And it would have taken like an hour for him to get there by bus. So I'm like, oh, Dad, can you pick me up? And he was so, like, it was so annoying because I wasn't that, like, nervous because I'm like, I'm gonna get home, like, I wasn't, like, super anxious, which is weird. I think I was, like, mad that day, so I wasn't really anxious. I was kind of just, like, whatever, like, I'm gonna get home when I get home. But what made me even more mad was I called my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I missed the bus. And he's like, how did you miss it? How did you miss the bus? Like, blah, blah. And he, like, started going off, and it's like, what? Do you think I meant to miss the bus? Like, do you think I'm like, wow, do you know it would be, like, a blast if I missed the bus on my first day of school when all I want to do is go home? No. Of course I don't want to freaking stay in school for an extra hour. I wanted to go home. But of course, I obviously wanted to stay in school, and that's my fault. I'm sorry I missed the bus. It was my first day. No one, like, okay, it was kind of my fault for telling that girl that I didn't need help. But other than that, it wasn't really my fault. So whatever. So my dad got mad at me. And then there was a police officer there. And my counselor asked if he could take me home. And so he did, and long story short, I like got in the back seat of a police car and he drove me home. And yeah, that was a very weird experience because he kept trying to talk to me and like I didn't really want to, and it was really awkward because I didn't know him. And yeah. And I didn't have a phone that day because lucky me, my phone broke like the day before my first day of school. So that's actually a fun, crazy story. If anyone sees this other than my friends and family, I'll tell that story. That was a really traumatic story, or traumatic experience. Anyway, so the second time I missed the bus, it was way worse, because this time, I, like, didn't have the map thing. And, like, I went on the bus, and I couldn't remember. Okay, so I was there for, like, a week, and I've ridden the bus, like, I've only ridden the after-school bus. So that was the first time I rode the normal bus. So I didn't remember the number. So I like came outside and I realized, crap, I don't remember the number. So I knew around where the bus was, and I went on a bus that like sounded like a familiar number, and I like got out and I asked the bus driver, like, do you go on this street? And then he's like, no. And I'm like, well, do you know what bus goes on that street? And he like was so condescending. He was so condescending. He was like, you don't know what bus you go on? And I'm like, I was so like done. I was like, no, I've been here for like a week. I've only ridden the after school buses. No, I don't know what my bus number is. And it was so annoying. Like I was about to like punch this guy. It was like, no, I don't know. I don't know what bus I go on, obviously, or else I wouldn't be asking you which bus goes on the street. And then the person, like, he went on the radio and was like, who, like, has this bus, or, like, who has this route or whatever. And they were like, oh, bus, like, 42 or 42. So I got off and I started looking for bus 42, and I still couldn't find it. And I went back inside. And you know what's weird? The next day, like, on Monday that day, that bus, that like 42, wasn't the bus I got on the afternoon. It was a different number. So they gave me the wrong number. So that's why I couldn't find the bus. But that time I didn't want to go to my counselor because I was like, she's going to think I'm an idiot. Okay, there was this mall that's really, really close to the school, like crazy close. Like it's like 5 minutes away. So I just walked to the mall and I waited for my dad to pick me up. And again, he was like super mad. But I don't know what to say. So yeah. Also, sometimes one day the bus number wasn't the same as it usually was. So I'm thinking maybe that first day of school, the bus number, like something was wrong with the original bus and the bus number like changed. So maybe that's what happened, or maybe I'm just an idiot, like either one of those. But that was embarrassing. And I literally was looking at kids like while the buses were going away, and they were all staring at me, and it was so embarrassing. And it was like the worst. So I got off the bus like after I asked the guy, and I kept looking around, and everyone like on the buses was staring at me. And it was like, it was so bad. Okay, next thing that happened. I was in this one class, this like engineering class, and there was this pretty like cute guy, and there was like there were like projects above his head. And I was like looking at all the like engineering projects and stuff while I was waiting in line, and I was looking at all of them. And then you know how you like zone out while you're like looking at something? Yeah, that happened to me, and I like zoned out. So instead of looking at the posters, I started looking at him, and I was zoning out. Like I wasn't thinking about him, I was just thinking about something else, but I was zoning out. And the guy goes, "What are you looking at?" And I'm like, crap. And then I mumbled. I was like, nothing. And then I like looked away. And they were like laughing and like talking, and I don't know what they were talking about, but it was probably like making fun of me or whatever. But it was so embarrassing. And he was like cute too, so he was probably like used to girls like staring at him. But that time I wasn't staring at him because he was cute. I was staring because I was like zoning out. So it was so embarrassing. So he probably thought like I had a crush on him for like the whole rest of the year. And it wasn't even true. It was just that I was zoning out. So that happened. And another time, there's another kid in my class that I liked. And I had a crush on him, and I couldn't find his Instagram. And I was like looking for it, and I couldn't find it, and it was so annoying. And so I was asking him about like this concert he was going to, and he was like, oh, like let me show you. And he went on his Instagram, and like his username like was showing on the top. And literally I saw his username, and I like jumped to grab my phone. Like I think it was like on the table, so I like got really quickly, I grabbed it, and I like started opening my phone. And this whole time he was watching me, and he's like what's wrong with you? And I realized like, oh, it's probably not that normal for me to like quickly grab my phone. And I was like, oh, nothing. And like I like shielded my phone away from him and I like typed in his username. And I didn't add him then because I knew it would be weird, so I like screenshotted it or something. I don't know what I did, but I thought it was weird. It was like I have no self-control. Like I just like grabbed it and like it was so random. Like he must have been looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Like I'm showing you about a concert and you're like reaching for your phone. Like what happened? But yeah, and then I got his Instagram. It was all fine. About this kid, so I thought he was a sophomore. I was a freshman last year, so I thought he was a sophomore. And then I found out that he was a senior because I was talking about how I played soccer and he was talking about, and then he was like, oh yeah, I used to play. And then I'm like, oh, why don't you play anymore? And he's like, oh, because they don't let you play like if you're older than 18. And I'm like, what? And then I realized, oh, he's a senior. So, yeah. That's how I found out he was a senior. And I was like, wow, I have 0 chances with this kid. And then I got really depressed. And then I found out he had a girlfriend and he'd been dating her for 3 years. And then I definitely realized that I had 0 chances with this kid. So I'm like, yeah, that was depressing. And then there's this other time, okay, this is a mini story, this is probably the last one. There's this other time we were working on this science project, and I like flipped, I like didn't really flip out, but I was like, oh guys, I think we have to do this, and I kept saying that, and I was like making such a big deal out of it, and I was being so annoying. And I knew I was being annoying, but I wanted to get a good grade on it, so I kept like saying it. And my group was like, it's fine, like blah, blah, like 50 times. And then this girl was finding like, Dillian, like, I'm gonna kill you or something like that. And she was getting so frustrated because I was being so annoying. And then I was like, okay, I have to stop, so I stopped. And it turns out that they were right, it was fine, and we got a 100 on it. So that was embarrassing because I was wrong the whole time. Like, it wasn't even like I was annoying and then we got like a 96 and we like did something wrong. Like, no, we got a 100 on it and I was just completely wrong and annoying for no reason. So that was really embarrassing. Oh, wait, one other thing happened. Okay, so there was this one girl who was like, okay, it's really weird because I'm like not gay or anything, but this one girl was so pretty and I was just like shocked by how pretty this girl was. And like I would keep staring at her because I had like 3 classes with her and I kept staring at her. And like she caught me staring at her like 5 times. And this one time in math, I was staring at her and she like caught me staring at her and she like didn't, like sometimes like she smiled at me when I was like staring at her or whatever. And like this one time she like just glared at me and then she just like sat back down and like then she just stopped like looking at me and then she sat back down. And it was so embarrassing. It was like, And then I clicked like, Dylan, you gotta stop doing this. This is freaking weird. And then I stopped staring at her. Anyway, so that's it. Those are the end of the embarrassing stories. Compared to other people, I bet it's not that bad. But it definitely could have been better. And yeah, if you like this video, I'm gonna do the basic thing that all the other YouTubers do. Like, subscribe, comment if it's not roasting me, and yeah, that's the end of this video.